I have no shame about this. Like, it happens. If it can get someone to save themselves from either 3 months of chemo or maybe even save their life, that's incredibly, incredibly important. Failure is when we learn about who we are and hopefully who you want to be. We learn from our experiences and we try to be better. I don't know any other initiative that is focused on something like this. And I think sports figures are role models. They can make a huge impact on society.
Nathan, first of all, thanks for your support of the Good Men in Sport initiative, and congratulations on all your success in the pool and in your life.
Thank you very much.
I want to start today by just getting to know your journey a little bit. So tell me about where you grew up and what it was like.
I actually grew up in the Seattle area. Across the water is a little Navy town called Bremerton. My dad was a civilian employed by the Navy. He was an engineer there. My mom was a social worker at first, then I came along. I learned to swim before I was 2 years old, and that was a water safety thing. Got on my club team when I was 5, and it just kind of swept me up.
Did you have brothers and sisters, and how far apart were you guys in age?
I did, yes. So I have one brother, one sister. My sister is 8.5 years older than I am. My brother is 6 years older. So they were both swimmers. They kind of cut their path as far as they could go and as far as they wanted to go with it. And then that made it that much easier for me to see, for me to like kind of embrace the idea of, my sister went to a Division I college. Like, maybe I can do that too. My brother went to a Division I school and went to NCAAs. They allowed me to dream so much bigger because of the success that they had in the pool.
What's the role that you would say your family played generally in who you are as a person and your competitive spirit and et cetera?
I mean, it's hard not to find a spot in my life that they haven't played a massive, massive role, right? I mean, they were there through good, through bad, whatever it may be. And actually, even in swimming, one of the hardest lessons I learned was that I failed, right? I totally fell on my face. I failed. I was supposed to get way more medals than I got. I almost got ran down and lost Team USA, a gold medal in a race that we haven't lost in a really long time. But the next day, the sun still rose, my family still loved me, my friends were still my friends, and that was one of the most important lessons that swimming taught me through my career.
What do you think it was about swimming that caught you?
So it's kind of like magnets. Like, I caught it, it caught me. Part of the reason why I excel at swimming is because I have I'm hypermobile. I can get a lot of leverage on the pool. I have these super floppy ankles, all these things that aren't necessarily good for a lot of other sports. Also, the competitiveness I think was great. I can race my teammates each and every day. And then the fact that it was something that I could kind of own myself. You put in hard work and you'll get something out of it. As you get a little older, to realize that sometimes you put in the hard work and you fail, and that's still okay. As long as you take something away from it.
Yeah. Gandhi said, full effort is full victory, right? And you can't always control the outcome. Your competitors,
absolutely,
the actions of others, but that internal work.
Exactly. That's something that this pool will teach you.
When did you first have the idea, I might go to the Olympics?
My progression was always kind of one step after the next. And the Olympics was a little bit of a pipe dream. I guess I maybe had a little bit more tunnel vision in that I was working for whatever my goals were that season, whether it be making nationals or making the national junior team, or, as we came to college, just trying to make the NCAA championships.
What was it like after all those years of training and competing to represent your country and to get that first medal? What was it like?
It's really surreal because it's this huge moment that you have watched over and over on TV. You have these expectations for what it should be like or what it will be like, but as the time actually comes and you experience it, it's weirdly like every other moment, but at the same time it is so incredibly special. So 2008 was kind of the first taste of Olympic victory, because I was a prelim-only relay swimmer. I helped get the team into the final heat, and then they did their thing from there, and they won while I was in the stands watching, because they swapped some of the athletes out. That helped build kind of the moment for when I actually got to stand on the podium in 2012. You're like, what am I supposed to do here? You know, like what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to cry? Like, am I supposed to create my own like Olympic moment for this? And it's like, no, like you do whatever you want. I get to like I worked really hard and I got to earn it. So it was just a special time.
So many of our moments of our life are like that, right? And we have an anticipation of what they're going to be like.
Yes.
And then, but it's one more moment, as you
Yes.
said, a special moment, but
Exactly.
one more moment. What have you learned most from training for the Olympics and in your sport that applies, you think, for becoming a better person in our lives?
One of the things that swimming is taught is that you'll never regret the right decision. And by that, I mean, you never know going into a decision what the correct answer is, but given all the information that you know, you can always make the right decision. And you know, maybe that's probability based, maybe that's based on what you feel in your gut and in your heart. But if you can always look back and say, hey, I at 5 o'clock in the morning, I got out of bed and I was there with my teammates. You know, that is the right decision. And at the end of the season, you can always defend that. You know, being a good person is largely the same. We know what being a good person and the right decision is, you know, most of the time.
Well, you know, when you're saying that, one of the thoughts I had is, so if you make a right or wrong decision, you're still back at the pool the next day.
Yeah.
You don't forget what your goal is.
Yeah.
And isn't that the same as a human being, as a man, right? You say, well, my goal is to be a certain way. Right. Did I make the right decision, the wrong decision? But tomorrow I'm going to be back in the game, right, working hard to go towards what I want, which is the right decision.
Absolutely. And I guess it's never too late. It's never too late to start making those right decisions if previously you hadn't. You know, and I think that's incredibly important. I know it's incredibly important to swimming, and you know, maybe your motivation falters or you start getting interested in other things. It's like you can come back. Like you have to understand that it takes time. I think that's really important to swimming and in life. Maybe some of the wrong decisions in life come from trying to take the shortcut.
So I know you recently went through a significant health experience that you chose to, you know, which we congratulate you to you know, openly share that journey. So tell us what happened and also why you chose to be, I guess, as public as you were in sharing that journey.
So this last winter, I was diagnosed with testicular cancer. And now I'm on close surveillance for the next 2 years. I just had my first scans, which came back clean, so I'm really excited about that. And the reason I went about being public with this was because I saw 3 different urologists, and each and every one of those doctors said, it's a good thing you came in when you did. There are a lot of men each year who wait way too long. And I actually had talked to one of my public health friends that I went to school here at Cal with, and she was like, oh, like I have this great paper for you to read. And it was a journal article about men connecting the idea that properly functioning genitals is masculine. There's just this huge disconnect here. If I can go in and I can make my story known, and it just it gets one person or 2 people to go into the doctor a little sooner than they would have already, like that, I have no shame about this. Like, it happened, you know, and my family knows about it, my friends know about it. I don't care if people on the street know about it, but if it can get someone to save themselves from either 3 months of chemo or maybe even save their life, that's incredibly, incredibly important.
Well, first of all, again, thanks for doing that. And as you know, because of your own background in public health, men generally, you know, aren't as willing to ask for help on a lot of things,
yes,
right? Or to admit, you know, David, you know, one of my colleagues likes to say, men like to talk about their problems after they're solved. Maybe, or maybe not even then. What was it like? What kind of response did you get, especially on social media?
Everything has been incredibly supportive. Absolutely everything. And I think one of the reasons is because cancer affects 1/3 of the human population, right? So 1/3 of people are going to have that conversation with their doctor. that says, hey, your test results came back and it's not what we had hoped. And it's a hard conversation to have, and you just feel so alone. We do tend to keep a lot of our health information, private for whatever reason, and there's no problem with that. But there is something about the isolation that is and can be hard.
So what would you say to other men who have a hard time talking about these things, or let's generalize it even talking about challenges in their life and asking for help? Right. What would you want to say to other men?
I would argue that in this day and age, it's almost masculine to fight that urge to be so internal about it, be so holed up and cut off away from thinking or talking to people about it.
I like that. So it's almost like, well, we need to redefine. Well, that's what a real man does. A real man asks for help. A real man, is willing to talk about these things.
That's exactly what I mean. I genuinely feel like it's true. It's masculine to help other people. So that it's kind of like a positive feedback loop of hopefully good that can happen.
Do you feel pressures in a positive way, I guess, to be a role model for, let's say, there might be young swimmers out there now or athletes who look up to you as a gold medalist?
I do. I definitely feel a responsibility, and I think because I was fortunate to have such good role models, brother, I mean, my sister too. It doesn't necessarily have to be a male. My mom, my dad, my coaches growing up. My coach to this day, Dave Durden. I mean, he's an extraordinary coach and a man. I mean, he's a great person, and I feel a responsibility to try to do my best to do the same to people that look up to me.
Well, how would you define being a good man? We call this good men in sports. How would you define a good man, or at least trying to be a better man, right?
Yeah.
How would you define?
Why don't we start there?
Yeah, that's what we like to talk about. It's about being a better man, better tomorrow than we were today. So, what are some of the elements for you of being a better man?
Yeah, I think it's about being the best version of yourself that you can be. For me, I mean, it's being the best husband I can be to my wife, being the best friends that I can be for my friends, the best son to my parents, and the best brother I can be to my siblings, and that just kind of extrapolates to everyone. Getting cancer at 30, I think that was one of the most important lessons that I'm probably ever going to learn, is that we will only have limited time here on Earth, and you're not going to be able to take money with you when you go. What is going to be your impact? And that doesn't have to be this massive global scale, right? It could just be seeing a friend that is having a down day that you're not used to seeing them have a bad day, and asking them, hey man, are you all right? In college, when a buddy breaks up with a long-time girlfriend, just checking on them. As a young man, I mean, I had breakups myself. You just kind of want to hang out in bed alone and do nothing, and it's nice to have a buddy looking out saying, hey, let's go to dinner. Let's spend some time with our other friends, or if they're not willing to do that, I'm thinking of you.
One of the things I love about what you said is, that we only have, and the health scare kind of is a way at 30 of reminding you, I only have this one life, one time to be a husband, or at least with this person, to be a father, to be a son, to be a brother or sister, to be someone's coach, right? Yeah. So I like that idea of moment to moment thinking about what's the impact I want to have right now in this moment.
Absolutely.
So what attracted you to the Good Men in Sports initiative?
I don't know any other initiative that is focused on something like this. And I think it is incredibly important. As sports figures are role models, they can make a huge impact on society. Either you can identify that and utilize it, or you can kind of just shrug it off and live your life. Even for me, watching Michael go through his transformations in the pool, and as a man, I'm trying to do my own version of that for myself, and to partner up with you guys is a great way to have a platform to discuss it.
Yeah, that's great. What do you wish you had known at 20 that you know now? And so if you were talking to a young university athletes now, What do you wish you had known?
Learn to be yourself, and find people that embrace that and enjoy that. I would try to back that advice up to myself to my 15-year-old, 14-year-old self, and that's kind of it's a tough time. High school, trying to fit in, figuring out what it means to fit in. You don't need to change yourself to do that. There is a time in my life where I found a ton of people that I fit in with, and I was so much more comfortable, and I was so much more relaxed, and that just being relaxed just enabled so many good things to happen in my life, whether it be performing in school, performing in the pool, or just overall being happier.
I was thinking of something you said earlier when you said that about most of us know when we're making the right decision. And isn't it true so often, I think, for men and women, but I think especially for young men, when we wind up doing something that isn't really who we are to fit in? Yeah. Isn't that so true? That's where we get in trouble. We're going along with something that's not really, we know in our heart it's not who we are.
Yeah, or if you just take a beat. You're in a social, this happens all the time. You're in a social setting and people just keep taking it further to get a cheap laugh or just get that awe factor, that shocking, whoa, that I can't believe you did that. But it's like, you take a deep breath and you don't need to do that. You don't need to do this silly thing that, at the expense of someone else to gain the respect of your peers. There's a million other ways that are so much better and more positive. One of the things that I think I would do, I know I would do, a lot of times as I reflected was, would I have made that decision again in front of my mom or my grandma? And if they heard about it, would they be proud of it? And hands up, man. I have made decisions that I would probably say no, but I took that time and I tried to learn from it. And that way that there was that feedback to the next time I was presented with that same type of decision to say, hey, that was wrong, and you're not going to feel good about this tomorrow, next week, next month, if you make that same wrong decision.
I love that. And we can't expect perfection. Like earlier when I said, well, good men, well, let's talk about better men, right? Yeah. Because just like an athlete, it's not every race not going to be perfect. Every practice is not going to be perfect, but you come to the pool again tomorrow. Talk a little about that, about what do we do when we're not our best self?
Right, that is absolutely critical. I think it's just, even when I go and speak with young athletes and, I try to make sure they understand that on paper, I have a bunch of medals and awards and stuff, but I've failed so many times. Failed so many times. But we got back in the pool again. We looked at what caused that failure and tried to fix it, and that's why we achieved so much success.
What do we do when maybe we made a bad decision or when we haven't been our best? Right. How do we get back in the pool in life?
It's only a terrible decision if you don't decide to learn from it. And maybe some people's path to change it's gonna, unfortunately in life, some things are harder for some people than others, but you can always try. And it just all kind of comes back to, if you need to, you can always ask for help. That failure is when we learn about who we are, and hopefully who you want to be. Dave, coach, likes to say, experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. And I think that's true, and we learn from our experiences, and we go out and we try to be better.
Many of the challenges we find in our lives wind up being in relationships, right? Our relationship with our kids, our relationship with our intimate other, right? And what do we do when we fail there? And how does that relate to what we were talking about earlier around failing in sports? How do we go back and really, be present and be in a healing place?
The easy thing to do a lot of times in relationships, whether it be with a best friend, with girlfriend, boyfriend, with even if it's parents or whatever it may be, is sometimes just to ignore it. And that's the easy thing to do, just to pretend like it didn't exist or it didn't happen. But I'm learning more and more, and I'm still learning. That's a lesson that I still am personally learning, is that to address it is a lot of times the better way to go about it, because there's just no ambiguity there. And a lot of times by addressing it, I think you're oftentimes telling the other person that I care about my relationship with you and I want to make it better. How can we do that?
Yeah, and what I heard you say too, between the lines was to then be genuinely curious about the other person's experience.
Yeah.
And what they might need from you. And say, look,
Absolutely.
I don't know the answer, but I want to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's critical too. I mean, just to understand that your actions and your words are interpreted sometimes through a different lens, and sometimes you need to take time to understand how other people interpret it. In sports, sometimes I think that's a great time where emotions run high. Communication barriers and time to present your thoughts or your feelings in a friendly way you don't have that luxury of time. That can break down, but then you spend it trying to heal that relationship at some point after.
Yeah, we talk often in our work about the interpersonal gap, right? So the gap between my intention and your experience of me, right?
Yeah.
So we may have a certain intention, but can we get curious about how someone else experienced? So maybe we think, I don't think I was the way I wanted to be last night with my wife, my girlfriend, my friend, to go back and say, maybe it's fine last night, but I felt like maybe I didn't listen to you, or maybe I felt like you felt I really didn't care. I'm curious if that's how you experienced it.
Yeah, right? You nailed that right there.
So Nathan, obviously in the last year with the, what's now called the Me Too movement, which is really where I think what finally came to light, many of the things that men have done over the years to women that were not right, that abused power, etc. How do we begin to heal that? How do we begin to have conversations about that, do you think?
This is a start. Having that conversation is a piece of it. One of the things that I think I've been really lucky to I've lived in around a college for how many years now? Like, I'm 30 years old. I came here when I was 17, and one of the great things and transformations that I have seen is the positive effects of peer pressure, especially when it comes to something like Me Too, where consent is a big deal. If anybody thinks this journey is over or close to over, they're going to be wrong. Social change takes time, and it takes a lot of effort too, as you guys probably know. And it takes a lot of consistent work. So it's far from over, but I think we're making progress, and especially, holding ourselves accountable as men, and holding your peers accountable. I mean, that's absolutely huge.
Yeah, I like what you said too. It begins, we have to have the conversation.
Yeah.
And we have to have it honestly. And part of, we talk about being a good brother is to challenge your brothers when they're not being their best, right?
Yes.
And I'm hearing you say you're seeing more of that on the campuses now, as you said, as an Olympic athlete still training here at UC Berkeley, you're getting to still hang around the campus even though you're not in school.
Yeah, exactly.
So have you seen that transition where you feel like there is more positive peer pressure, there is more of this conversation going on among young men?
I think so. I personally think so. Again, I mean, my relationship with my teammates now is certainly different than when I was actually, part of the team. But again, I think through the interventions, whether it be through the university, the student athlete side, where the athletic director has people come in and give talks about this, or whether it be different things that people are doing in the classroom, we realize that there is a problem. And that's where, as a young man, you realize that, if you didn't before, that, there are certain ways to act. I think Berkeley's done a pretty decent job of teaching that. And no one's perfect, but we're certainly trying.
So Nathan, talk to us about your future now in terms of, the next Olympics coming up, and where's Nathan's path from here?
Yeah, so I'm training full time for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. We are really excited. To make the decision to come back and spend the time to get back. I'm absolutely confident that this is what I want to do, because that threatened to take it away. And that was a really, really sad, hard thought to deal with for myself. And I'm really so thankful to be able to be here and train and do what I love. Also, this is totally unrelated, but maybe you guys can give me some advice on this too. But I actually also just purchased a small swim school. During the whole cancer scare, my friend called me and says, "Hey, this isn't great timing," but I had this opportunity. For me, I think that sports can just teach in so many different ways, and you can use, like learning sports, or even the ability to use play to teach so many different, amazing things. And hopefully we can find a way to even integrate how to be a good man into how we teach swimming, or how we run a swim team up there. I mean, I think these are all, like, you have to take such a multifaceted approach to trying to solve a problem like this, and it certainly starts with our youth.
One of the visions of good men in sport is that so many young men and women increasingly now participate in sports, that sport would be a way to make people better human beings and fulfill its highest potential, to make people better people, not just better athletes. Say a little bit about what you would hope for sports in its highest form. How might sports and participation in sports make us better human beings?
I think that sports, in a lot of ways, fills the gaps that our education system sometimes miss. In those life lessons about, and I've hit this a lot of times, but about hard work, about goal setting, about disappointment. I mean, I think team sports are a great example of how to learn to communicate, learn what the right way to communicate is, what the wrong way to communicate is, and I think that is its potential. Listen, there's such a small percentage of people that are going to be a professional athlete and make this their living, but there is so many people that will attribute a lot of their success to what they learned through whatever sport it may be, football, baseball, basketball, swimming. A lot of the people that I see today just talking about these life lessons that they learned from swimming at such a young age, from sport at such a young age, that just changed how they approached whatever challenge they may have faced. And I think that done the right way, sport can achieve any realistic goal that it tries to tackle.